Bank this year came out and sort of had a rather less positive view on the role of LNG in kind of decarbonising the shipping industry. Kind of why the difference of opinion?
Look, I can only speak for our side. I can tell you that the comments from the World Bank were not well received from the guys like myself and others who've committed to kind of making change now. Look, I would certainly love to see hydrogen be the fuel. I just don't see how we get there in the next 5 or 7 years. And so I don't think it's responsible to wait. If you look at the life cycle of a container ship, they'll tell you it's X years, but recently, because of the size and changes in the cost of TEU shipping, some of the newer ships, and I say newer, less than 10 years old, they're obsolete right now. So if you're telling me you're building an asset for 25 years, but it's going to be obsolete in 10, then you're not being truthful with yourself. So, I mean, I see a number of the vessels that are going to be LNG fueled and then ammonia ready. That's a great idea. I mean, you can shift to that later on. But my thing today is we need to start now and not wait any longer.
Hello and welcome to LNG TV. We're delighted to welcome Chad Verret to LNG Excellence to share his insights as a marine fuels expert. With over 30 years in the marine industry, Chad is president of Q-LNG Transport, executive vice president for Harvey Gulf International Marine, and has been the chairman of the Society of Gas as a Marine Fuel, an international group whose focus is on the safe use of LNG as a marine fuel. Chad, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
So Chad, from that title, sounds like you're a very busy man. But it's my understanding that actually you're fourth generation of your family to be in the marine industry. So you're going to tell me whether there was anything else that you were interested in when you were growing up?
Yeah, so I grew up in South Louisiana. It's hunting, it's fishing. So I grew up on the water. And that's kind of the background of my family, subsistence, hunting and fishing back 80 or 100 years, all the way through my father entering the oil field in 1960.
And then how did it progress? How did you go from fishing at the weekends or fishing most days of the week to sort of your career and then moving into LNG?
Like I said, my dad was a career Tidewater employee. He spent 38 years of his life working there. I grew up going to work with him and being on board vessels. Went to university for 3 years and decided I wanted to do something a little different. To my father's kind of dismay, I followed in his footsteps, but certainly through my career, I made him proud in the things I was able to accomplish.
And how did LNG then first slot into your career?
In 2011, believe it or not, an article on the cover of an offshore support journal magazine highlighting a dual fuel LNG vessel kind of started us down our path. From that article, myself and Mike Carroll with STX at the time developed a concept design over the course of about 5 days of our dual fuel vessels that we ultimately built. And then 5 months later, we signed a contract to build 2. And that was kind of my introduction into LNG. We decided to build some vessels, so I figured I needed to learn everything I needed to know about them to be able to operate them safely and efficiently.
And why do you think LNG is such a good marine fuel? I mean, it's certainly a growing market. Why is it so suitable?
Specifically for us in the U.S., it's abundant, it's available, it's cheap to produce, it's better for the environment. If you look at it as a cargo, it's been handled safely for over 70 years. So to use it as a fuel in everyday kind of marine transportation applications is not a big step change. It's just a change of use from large scale carriers to utilizing it as onboard fuel for non-traditional type vessels.
And you're now president of Q-LNG. Can you share a little bit more about the company?
Yeah, Q-LNG is a privately held group. Shane Guidry, the CEO of Harvey Gulf, is the majority shareholder with a few other investors. The organization was put together supporting the contract that we received for a 15-year bunker barge contract for Shell. And it's an ATB. It's a kind of unique ATB. It's the first articulating tug barge that receives a DP notation. So we are able to get ABS to agree that we can combine 2 vessels and acting as one and create a vessel that was a station keeping ability similar to DP1 that we've seen in supply vessels. And it's currently nominated as one of the significant vessels of the year for the International Workboat Show next month.
What projects are you most proud of, or give me an overview of some of your successful projects you've been working on?
Look, I came into Harvey Gulf 13 years ago. They had just started a new build program of the first Enviro Plus vessels in North America that were going to be classed by ABS. We quickly kind of shifted a little bit and created the first, took the last vessel of that series, created the first true multi-purpose offshore supply vessel. So it was a fully functioning supply vessel, and then incorporated a 165-ton subsea crane. From that project, moved into the 5 dual fuel vessels I just talked about earlier. From there, we delivered a vessel to Shell for the Stones field, the Harvey Stone. It's kind of a unique vessel, and it's the first really offshore supply vessel design that Robert Allen did. So it's a hybrid design because it's a 260-foot tug, basically. And then right into our subsea construction vessels that are currently out in the Gulf of Mexico today. They're the largest construction vessels in the Gulf of Mexico that are U.S. flag. So I've been really, really able to, in Harvey Gulf, to kind of take some of my operational experience and then roll it into the engineering and the operational side to ensure that the vessels are more fit for purpose, a little bit more comfortable for the crews, and let the crew members know that a guy like myself who sailed for 18 years had a little thought process put into the design of the vessel as well.
Is there anything else, any other elements on the vessels that make them more sustainable other than the fuel, more sustainable, less polluting?
Yeah, so, we're working on a lot of new technology, adding different things. We're incorporating batteries on board of all 5 of the LNG vessels. And we've committed to doing batteries on 5 additional vessels. So we'll have a total fleet of 10 vessels that'll be utilizing stored energy on board to reduce emissions. In addition to that, the Harvey Power, we're installing real-time emissions monitoring on the main engines. And our hope there is to be able to model the emissions over a duration of time and then translate that to the other sister vessels of the same class. And really what our thoughts are there is to understand where we want to be in 2030 and 2050. You first got to understand where you're at and then plot a course to get where you want to be.
Kind of, Chad, if we may, just taking it back up to kind of a high level, the ideal notion of fuel switching is a topic that's been spoken about a lot. But I'd be really interested to know, what would be some of the considerations or things that an owner or an operator would be looking and considering when deciding whether to fuel switch?
So I tell everybody, conversions are difficult in the fact that you're starting out with a vessel that was already designed for an intended purpose. New builds are easy because you can build around the gas systems to ensure you can get the safety zones you need. I would say, there's a big debate on dual fuel or single fuel, i.e. with spark gas engines, just gas. And that's all about flexibility. If you have a long contract in an environment where you're going to be stable, meaning I'm going to do like a ferry service, A to B, and that's all we're going to do, you can make some really, really good choices. Our industry in the oil and gas side, we had to be flexible. So that's why we went with dual fuel. Look, I can run in LNG mode when it's available, but if I get redeployed to another place around the world, I can transit in diesel mode to get there. So I think every individual operation is a case by case. The container ships, the liner services stuff, look, that infrastructure is going to be built out. And that's why you see that's the segment that's growing the largest right now. So I think it really is industry by industry, vessel by vessel. But I think there's a path for all vessels to be converted in some way. And certainly new build vessels, in my opinion, LNG is the way to go right now. And people who are waiting for something better are just doing that. They're waiting.
Yeah, you kind of touched on infrastructure there. That was going to be my sort of next question. Is it a case of chicken and egg when we're looking at kind of developing LNG bunkering and also sort of new build LNG vessels?
Yeah, I mean, Bill, 5 years ago, I would agree with the chicken and the egg. Look, we ended up building 5 vessels and building a fueling terminal so we could refuel them. The numbers may not be exactly correct, but you've got 20 something bunker vessels that are in operation around the world with another 20 on order. The number of vessels on order to be delivered in the next 24 months that will burn LNG as fuel is greater than the number that's currently operating today. So that tells you that you're going to have an explosion in the next 24 to 36 months. And I think it's a good thing. Look, if you take, for example, converting a diesel vessel to an LNG vessel and then layering in battery technology, and then you can do some other enhancements. You can take that vessel that was an emitting vessel, a not so clean vessel, and reduce it by 45% emissions just by layering technologies. And you can do that today.
You know, obviously, kind of very pro LNG as a marine fuel. I mean, the World Bank this year came out and sort of had a rather less positive view on the role of LNG in kind of decarbonising the shipping industry. Kind of why the difference of opinion?
Look, I can only speak for our side. I can tell you that the comments from the World Bank were not well received from the guys like myself and others who've committed to kind of making change now. Look, I would certainly love to see hydrogen be the fuel. I just don't see how we get there in the next 5 or 7 years. And so I don't think it's responsible to wait. If you look at the life cycle of a container ship, they'll tell you it's X years, but recently, because of the size and changes in the cost of TEU shipping, some of the newer ships, and I say newer, less than 10 years old, they're obsolete right now. So if you're telling me you're building an asset for 25 years, but it's going to be obsolete in 10, then you're not being truthful with yourself. So, I mean, I see a number of the vessels that are going to be LNG fueled and then ammonia ready. That's a great idea. I mean, you can shift to that later on. But my thing today is we need to start now and not wait any longer.
Tell me about a bit of the work that the Society of Gas as a marine fuel is doing or has done, because you were chairman. I mean, you've talked about the global demand for LNG as a marine fuel, but I mean, what kind of give us some more details on the work that they've been doing.
Yeah, so look, SGMF started out being kind of fostered by SIGTOT, which is the Society for International Transport and Terminal Operators, as a way to kind of foster the bunkering industry for gas-fueled vessels. We pulled together a lot of members. I think the original member core was about 15 companies. Today, we're about 157 different member companies, broad range from super major oil companies down to manufacturers to class societies, institutions of higher learning, governmental organizations. And our focus is not solely on LNG, because it's all gases used as a marine fuel, but we're focusing on LNG primarily now because it's the fuel that's in the marketplace today. We do have working groups that are working with hydrogen, looking at ammonia as well. And so what we're doing is we're putting out industry guidance, safety standards, best practices, recommendations, kind of harvested from, hundreds of years of combined experience to say, hey, if you're going to do these things, do it in this way. I was really happy that during my tenure as the chairman, we were able to receive IMO approval. So we're a non-governmental organization member of IMO. And because of our member organization and our knowledge base, IMO's kind of given us the ability to kind of review and kind of take lead on a lot of the LNG type and gas fuel type related issues that are going on inside the organization.
And just as someone who has clearly developed a career in excellence in this particular sort of space, I mean, are there things that you're doing or excited about in terms of kind of paying forward that knowledge and experience to others coming into the industry?
Yeah, so we inside of the organization, we have a members group that's only for gas fuel vessel operators. So it's we like to call it a safe space. So we can meet, we can have discussions about what our issues are, what our problems are. Hey, I'm seeing this going on, are you guys seeing it? How are you dealing with these issues? And do it in such a way that it's not brought out outside. It's just operators talking about how to resolve issues. It's not blaming. It's not pointing fingers. So to me, that's a real good kind of knowledge transference, right? It's even, look, I might be in a room with my competitors, but in this space, we're talking about safety. We're talking about operational excellence. There's no commercial and there's no competitiveness in it at all. That's the one thing I'm really proud of that we brought in with SGMF.
And hopefully no time soon, but when it comes time for you to look back on your career, I mean, what were some of the things that you would like to have achieved, or what impact would you like to have made?
That's an interesting question, Con. I'd just like to be thought of as a guy who kind of started at the bottom and made it to somewhere towards the top, and left my mark along the way by just being attuned to what was going on and being a little bit forward thinking.
Well, you certainly are, Chad. Thank you so much for joining us here on LNG TV. Your insight has been fascinating. Really good luck over the next few years.
Thank you very much. I appreciate both of y'all. Y'all have a great day.
And thank you for watching the latest episode of LNG Excellence. You've been watching LNG TV from Will and myself. Goodbye and see you next time.